On the shining world of Solmera, a place of towering crystal towers and wide skies that glowed with colors unknown to Earth, lived Princess Arya. She was known across many star systems not only for her beauty, but also for her sharp mind and calm spirit. Songs about her had reached the edges of distant galaxies, and rulers of countless worlds dreamed of joining their lives with hers. Every week, new ships arrived at Solmera. They carried suitors who dressed in golden armor or flowing robes woven with silver threads. Some brought treasures mined from stars, others offered weapons forged in the cores of suns. They wanted her hand in marriage, and they wanted her throne. Each suitor believed himself worthy, yet each one failed. Arya had listened patiently to every promise. One alien ruler said he could bring her a fleet of 1,000 warships. Another promised her control over planets rich with rare gems. A third claimed that together they could rule half the galaxy. But in her heart she felt nothing. She saw only hunger for power in their eyes. Her father, King Solon, had grown weary of the endless visits. He urged Arya to choose someone who could strengthen their kingdom. "You cannot turn away every suitor," he warned. "Our allies grow impatient and our enemies wait for weakness." But Arya stood firm. "I will not give my life to someone who sees me only as a crown," she replied. "I would rather stand alone than rule beside one who does not understand me." The royal court was restless. Advisors whispered among themselves, worried about alliances slipping away. Noble families grew jealous that the princess rejected even the most powerful of rulers. Yet Arya's resolve never shook. She walked through the palace gardens at night, gazing at the glowing flowers and listening to the hum of Solmera's skies. She dreamed of someone who would see her as more than a jewel on a throne. The people of Solmera, however, admired her spirit. To them, she was not just a princess, but a guardian of their pride. Mothers told their daughters that Arya's courage was proof that one could hold to truth, even against great pressure. Soldiers sang of her strength when they marched across the city. She had become a symbol of dignity in a galaxy where power often crushed the purest hearts. One day, a grand council gathered in the palace hall. The suitors who had remained brought new gifts to impress her. One displayed a beast from a burning world, chained in iron and roaring with fire. Another placed a crystal globe upon the floor, showing visions of futures he claimed he could control. A third suitor offered living music, a choir of creatures singing in voices not of this realm. The hall echoed with marvels, yet Arya sat quietly on her throne, her face calm, her heart untouched. When each one finished, she rose and spoke with a voice that carried across the chamber. "You come with gifts of power, but none of you speak of kindness. You bring me chains, promises, and tricks of sight, but you do not bring me truth. I will not choose a husband who sees me only as a path to a crown. My heart is not for sale, and my people are not coins for trade." The hall grew silent. The suitors lowered their heads, some in anger, some in shame. Her father sighed, but he did not argue. For though he wished her to choose, he also knew she had the strength of Solmera in her voice. Word of her rejection spread once more. Across the stars, leaders shook their heads. Some laughed at her, saying she was proud and foolish. Others respected her, though they dared not say it aloud. Still, ships kept coming, each suitor believing he could be the one to win her heart. Arya, however, found peace in solitude. She continued to study the histories of worlds, reading of ancient battles and forgotten kings. She spoke with her people, listening to their needs and walking among them in disguise. She was loved not only as a ruler, but as one who understood the struggles of those who had nothing to give but loyalty. Yet even as she stood strong, she wondered if somewhere among the countless stars there was someone different, someone who did not come with riches or armies, someone who lived with quiet strength and honesty. She did not know if she would ever find such a person, but she believed it was worth waiting for. The galaxy called her the Princess of 1,000 Stars, the one who refused every suitor. Some feared she would never marry. Others believed her story was not yet written. What no one knew, not even Arya herself, was that her path would soon cross with a man far from her palace. He had no crown, no riches, and no army. He was a man who worked with his hands, a man who swept floors in a place where no one knew his name. And when their worlds finally touched, the galaxy would learn that true worth is not measured by power or treasure, but by the heart that guides a person's actions. For the princess who turned away 1,000 suitors had not yet met the one who would change everything. Far across the galaxy, on a small human colony called Alaris, lived a man named Thomas. He was not a ruler or a hero in the eyes of the world. He did not wear gold or robes of power. Instead, he worked quietly as a janitor in the busy starport, sweeping floors, polishing windows, and making sure the colony stayed clean and safe. Tomas had once been a leader of his people. He had commanded troops during a great conflict that threatened to destroy his home. He was skilled in strategy, wise in judgment, and respected by allies and enemies alike. But when the war ended, he chose not to take a throne. He had seen what power could do to those who craved it. He wanted no crowns, no armies, and no titles. He wanted a simple life, one where he could help others in quiet ways and live with honesty. Every day, Thomas woke early to clean the starport before ships arrived from other worlds. He greeted travelers with a kind smile, offered directions to those who were lost, and helped carry heavy cargo when needed. No one remembered his past deeds. To them, he was simply a man who kept the starport running. And yet he carried himself with a quiet dignity that came not from titles but from character. Even the children of Alaris looked up to him. They would follow him around the starport, asking questions about the stars, the ships, and the worlds beyond. Thomas would tell them stories in simple words, teaching them lessons about courage, patience, and kindness. He never boasted about his past. He simply guided them with gentle care, showing them that greatness could exist without a crown. One morning, as Thomas mopped the wide floors of the starport, he noticed a disturbance near the docking area. A group of traders argued loudly, claiming that someone had damaged their cargo. Others tried to intervene, but the argument grew louder. Thomas calmly stepped in. He listened to both sides, examined the goods carefully, and found the cause of the problem. With clear and fair instructions, he helped settle the dispute. Both parties left satisfied, impressed by a man they had never considered important. His reputation for fairness spread quietly through the colony. People began to notice that when Thomas was around, problems were solved without anger or harm. Leaders began to seek his advice on small matters, though they did not know the full extent of his skills. And Thomas, humble as ever, helped everyone without expectation of reward. Despite the simplicity of his life, Thomas carried a deep understanding of the galaxy. He had studied maps of distant star systems, learned about alien cultures, and even practiced languages that few on Alaris spoke. Yet he used this knowledge only to assist travelers and residents, never for fame or wealth. He believed that true strength was shown in service, not in power. Thomas's life was quiet, but it was not lonely. He enjoyed the company of those around him, whether they were children asking questions or workers struggling with heavy tasks. He took pride in small victories, a clean floor, a repaired window, or a peaceful resolution to a dispute. To him, these acts mattered more than gold, titles, or armies. One evening, as the sun set over Alaris and the sky turned shades of orange and purple, Thomas paused to watch ships leave for distant worlds. He wondered about the people traveling among the stars, the rulers, the soldiers, and the dreamers. He thought of the galaxy as a vast place filled with possibility, yet he felt content in his role as a quiet guardian of the starport. He never imagined that one day someone from that vast galaxy would come into his life, changing everything in ways he could not foresee. And so, life on Alaris continued. Thomas swept, polished, and repaired. He helped travelers, guided children, and kept the starport running smoothly. Unknown to him, far beyond the colony, Princess Arya continued to seek someone who would understand her heart. And fate, as always, was quietly preparing to bring them together in a way that would surprise the galaxy. Through it all, Thomas remained humble, honest, and devoted to simple truths. Little did anyone know the man who mopped floors every day carried within him the wisdom, courage, and character of a true king. And soon, the worlds of Solmera and Alaris would collide in a story that would teach the galaxy that greatness is not always measured by crowns, armies, or riches, but by the heart that guides every action. Princess Arya stepped onto the human colony of Alaris with curiosity and caution. The planet was quiet compared to the bustling courts of Solmera. The starport was alive with ships arriving from distant worlds, traders haggling over goods, and travelers speaking in languages Arya had never heard. She walked among them in simple clothing, her royal presence hidden beneath a plain hood. Arya wanted to see this world without the weight of her title. She wished to meet people who did not bow to a crown, who lived and worked with honesty and courage. She wandered through the starport, observing workers loading cargo, children running between ships, and travelers sharing stories of distant planets. The colony felt alive yet peaceful, a place where life was measured by effort and heart rather than wealth or power. Her attention was drawn to a man working quietly near a docking area. He moved with care and focus, sweeping the floors, wiping windows, and arranging small tools with precision. There was something different about him. He did not look up when people passed by, did not pause to flaunt his work, yet his calm presence seemed to make the busy space feel ordered and safe. Curious, Arya approached and watched him. The man, Thomas, did not notice her at first. He helped a child who had dropped a package, lifted a crate for an exhausted traveler, and repaired a small mechanical device that had stopped working. Each action was simple, yet it reflected skill, patience, and care. Arya felt a strange admiration growing inside her. She decided to speak with him. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Can you help me find the docking for the Starliner to Solmera?" Thomas looked up, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes were clear and calm. "You want docking 8, he replied simply. "It is across the plaza, near the fuel station. Watch your step on the ramp. The metal can be slippery." Arya was surprised by his directness. He did not bow or offer her words of flattery. He did not ask who she was or why she mattered. He treated her like anyone else, and for the first time she felt no expectation or judgment. She thanked him and walked toward the docking, but curiosity kept her returning to watch him work. Over the next few days, Arya continued to observe Thomas. She noticed how he treated every person with respect, no matter their status. A merchant who had lost goods was comforted by his words. A young apprentice struggling with a task was guided patiently. Even the most stubborn workers followed his advice willingly, sensing his quiet authority. One afternoon, an unexpected problem arose. A transport ship carrying essential supplies had malfunctioned, blocking the main docking bay. The workers panicked and travelers grew anxious. Arya watched Thomas step forward. He examined the ship, spoke calmly to the engineers, and quickly organized a team to lift, repair, and guide it safely. Within an hour, the docking was clear and the work continued without further incident. Arya was amazed. This man, who seemed so ordinary, commanded respect through action rather than title. She realized that leadership could exist quietly, without announcements or crowns, and yet be far more powerful than any display of wealth or military might. She felt drawn to him, not by admiration alone, but by understanding that he saw the world clearly and acted with honesty. That evening, she found herself speaking to him more directly. "You are very skilled," she said. "Do you always help people like this?" Thomas smiled lightly. "I do what needs to be done," he said. "Everyone has a role. I help where I can. It is not difficult to be kind or careful." Arya thought of the many suitors she had refused. They had all sought her for power, for glory, for riches. Thomas had none of these, and yet he possessed something far greater: strength of character, humility, and courage. Over the following days, she spent more time near him, learning about his life, listening to his quiet wisdom, and seeing the world through his perspective. She realized that Thomas had once been a leader in ways that mattered more than armies or thrones. He had chosen to serve, to live humbly, and to guide with patience. The bond between them began to grow, not through grand gestures or spoken promises, but through small actions, shared experiences, and mutual respect. Arya felt a stirring in her heart that she had never felt with any suitor, no matter how powerful or wealthy. She understood that true greatness was not in what one possessed, but in what one gave to others. For the first time, Arya allowed herself to imagine a future beyond crowns and courts. She imagined a life with someone who could see her as a person, who could inspire not through riches or power, but through kindness, courage, and integrity. Thomas, without knowing, had become that person. As the sun set over the colony, casting warm golden light across the starport, Arya watched Thomas work. She understood that this meeting was no coincidence. The galaxy had brought them together for a reason. And in her heart she felt hope. A hope that the Princess of 1,000 Stars might finally find someone worthy, not through titles or treasures, but through the purity of action and strength of character. That night she returned to her quarters, thinking of the simple janitor who had already changed the way she saw the world. She realized that her search was not over, but it had begun in a way she never expected. The true test was yet to come. But for the first time, Arya felt certain that she might have finally found someone who could match her heart. The days following the starport incident were filled with quiet anticipation. Princess Arya could not stop thinking about Thomas. Each time she watched him work, guiding others, repairing systems, and helping travelers, she felt her admiration grow into something deeper. She realized that the qualities she had sought in a partner, honesty, courage, humility, and strength of heart, were all embodied in this simple janitor who carried himself like a true king. Arya decided it was time to reveal herself. She invited Thomas to the starport after hours, under the pretense of inspecting repairs from the recent fire. When he arrived, she stood waiting in a small courtyard, the soft glow of the twin moons illuminating her features. Thomas looked at her with curiosity. "Princess?" he asked, sensing something different in the air. "Yes," Arya said, her voice steady yet gentle. "I wanted to thank you properly. You saved countless lives, not just with skill, but with your courage and your heart. I have never met anyone like you." Thomas shook his head, brushing off the praise. "I only did what was right," he said. "Anyone could have done the same if they remained calm and helped others." Arya stepped closer, meeting his eyes. "But not everyone does, and not everyone carries themselves with such honesty and care. You do not seek reward, yet you inspire loyalty and trust. That is rare in this galaxy. You are extraordinary." Thomas felt a warmth in his chest but looked away. "I am just a man doing what I can," he said softly. Arya smiled. "Perhaps, but sometimes the quietest hearts are the strongest. I have spent my life turning away suitors, men, and rulers who wanted my hand for power or wealth. None of them understood what I sought, but you do." The words hung in the night air. Thomas finally met her gaze and saw sincerity and respect shining in her eyes. He realized that Arya saw him not as a janitor, not as a man without a throne, but as someone with true courage and wisdom. Over the next days, Arya and Thomas spent time together, walking through the colony, sharing stories of their lives, and learning from one another. Arya spoke of her experiences on Solmera, the pressures of being a princess, and the suitors she had turned away. Thomas shared lessons from his past as a leader, and why he had chosen a simple life of service over power. As they grew closer, Arya felt certain in her heart that Thomas was the one she had been searching for. She admired his humility and strength, and she saw in him a partner who could face challenges without fear, who valued people over power, and who acted with integrity in every situation. The final test came unexpectedly. A powerful storm struck Alaris, threatening to destroy parts of the colony. Winds tore at buildings and debris flew through the streets. The citizens panicked, unsure how to protect themselves. Arya watched as Thomas quickly organized rescue teams, guided children and families to safety, and secured the damaged areas. His calm voice and decisive actions reassured everyone, turning fear into coordinated action. Arya realized then, fully and without doubt, that Thomas was not only a hero in action, but also in heart. He did not command through fear or orders. He inspired through care, courage, and unwavering dedication. She knew that this was the man she wanted by her side, the one whose spirit matched her own. When the storm finally passed, Arya took Thomas's hand and spoke with certainty. "Thomas, I have spent my life searching for someone worthy of my heart. I have refused 1,000 suitors, and yet here you are. You are the man who sees the world clearly, who acts with courage, and whose heart is true. I want to be with you, not because of power, not because of wealth, but because of who you are." Thomas looked at her, surprised and moved. "Princess, I never imagined someone like you would see me this way. I am only a man who cleans floors and helps others," he said quietly. Arya smiled, squeezing his hand. "And that is exactly why you are the one. True strength is not measured by titles or riches. It is measured by courage, humility, and care for others. You have all of that, Thomas, and I wish to share my life with you." From that moment, the people of Alaris and the wider galaxy would learn the story of the princess who refused 1,000 suitors until she found the true king in the most unexpected of places. Thomas, the janitor who mopped floors every day, had revealed his greatness not through a throne or army, but through character, courage, and heart. Arya and Thomas worked together to unite the colony and strengthen connections with nearby worlds. Under their guidance, the citizens thrived, and neighboring planets recognized that leadership and greatness could come from the most unexpected sources. Their partnership was admired not because of titles, but because of the respect, care, and wisdom they shared. In time, Arya and Tomas were celebrated as a symbol of humility and true strength. They proved that the galaxy's greatest rulers are not always those who command armies or wear crowns, but those who act with honesty, courage, and love. And together, they ruled not just with authority, but with hearts aligned in service, kindness, and mutual respect. Princess Arya, the princess of 1,000 stars, had finally found her equal. And Thomas, the man who had once only mopped floors, had found a partner who recognized his true worth. The galaxy remembered their story as a lesson that greatness comes not from power, but from character, and that love finds its way when hearts act with honesty, courage, and humility. The peace of Alaris was shattered one morning when alarms blared across the starport. A cargo vessel carrying vital supplies from a neighboring system had malfunctioned during docking. Sparks flew from the engines and smoke filled the bay. Workers froze, unsure of what to do. Travelers panicked, running toward exits in fear. Thomas, who was mopping near the docking area, immediately assessed the situation. Without hesitation, he grabbed a fire extinguisher and moved toward the smoke. His calm voice carried over the chaos. "Everyone step back! Clear the area and follow the emergency exits." People obeyed, sensing his quiet authority. He checked the ship and realized the malfunction was in the fuel line, which could ignite if not handled carefully. Thomas instructed nearby engineers to shut off the valves, guiding them with precision. He climbed onto the vessel himself, working quickly but carefully to prevent a disaster. Princess Arya, who had been observing him from a distance, watched in awe. She had seen leaders and warriors in her life, but none acted with such clarity and courage under pressure. Thomas moved with skill and patience, directing others without a single display of pride. Every action he took was for the safety of those around him. Minutes later, a small explosion rocked the bay. Flames erupted from the damaged section, but Thomas remained calm. He guided the workers to create a safe barrier, while he used the extinguishers and emergency tools to contain the fire. Sweat ran down his face and his clothes were scorched, but he did not stop until the flames were under control. When the smoke cleared, the bay was damaged, but no one was seriously hurt. Travelers and workers alike cheered quietly for the man who had saved them. Arya approached him, unable to hide her admiration. "You were incredible," she said. No one else could have handled that so calmly. Tomas shook his head, brushing ash from his hands. "It was not just me," he said. "Everyone worked together. I only helped guide them. The important thing is that no one was hurt." Her heart stirred as she saw not only his skill but also his humility. He had once been a leader in war, yet he fought now without a desire for recognition or power. He acted because it was right, because it was necessary, because people's lives mattered more than glory. The news of the incident spread quickly across the colony. Thomas became known as the man who had prevented disaster, but he refused any reward or special attention. He continued to sweep floors, repair equipment, and help travelers as if nothing had happened. Arya realized that this was the kind of strength that could not be measured in armies or wealth. Over the following days, she spent more time with him, watching how he led quietly. He helped workers repair damaged systems, organized volunteers to clean and restore the bay, and offered guidance to the frightened travelers. All the while, he remained humble, never boasting or seeking praise. One evening, Arya walked beside Thomas as he inspected the repaired docking area. "I have met many powerful leaders," she said softly, "but I have never seen anyone lead like you do. You do not need a crown, and yet people follow you willingly. How is that possible?" Tomas looked at her, calm and thoughtful. "Leadership is not about titles or fear," he replied. "It is about action and care. People follow those who show them the right path, who protect them, and who act with honesty. That is all anyone needs." Arya felt a warmth in her heart she had never known. She realized that this man, who had chosen to live humbly and serve quietly, held a power far greater than any suitor who had ever come to Solmera. His courage, humility, and wisdom made him not just remarkable but extraordinary. That night she returned to her quarters and thought deeply. She had met many who desired her hand for riches, armies, and power, yet Thomas had none of these, and still he commanded respect and admiration through his actions alone. She understood that her search for a worthy partner had brought her to him, the true king hidden in plain sight. The following days only strengthened her realization. Thomas continued his work with quiet dignity, helping people, solving problems, and showing kindness to everyone he met. Arya felt drawn to him more and more, not through words or promises, but through the way he lived and led. The Princess of 1,000 Stars had never imagined that a simple janitor could teach her so much about courage, humility, and leadership. And yet she now knew that greatness was not measured by crowns, titles, or wealth, but by the choices one made, the care one gave, and the strength of heart that guided every action. For Arya, the lesson was clear. The man who mopped floors, guided people, and acted without expectation of reward was the one whose heart was pure, whose courage was true, and whose spirit matched her own. The galaxy had finally begun to show her that the path to true greatness was not through grand gestures, but through quiet, steadfast action. And in the quiet of the starport, amidst the hum of ships and the chatter of travelers, Princess Arya realized that her heart had found what it had been searching for all along, a man who led not with power, but with honesty, courage, and love for those he served.